Hello and welcome to another episode of the Tour de Greaves cycling show in association with SportsAid and the Rayner Foundation. I'm really delighted this week to welcome former Swiss road and TT champion, now with Alpecin-Fenix, Silvan Dillier. Silvan, thanks a lot for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Firstly, how are you recovering from the injuries you picked up in the last round of Spring Classics? You've had a bit of an up and down classic season, kind of crash and injury wise, haven't you?
Yeah, unfortunately, but yeah, recovery goes well. I anyway had a little break planned after Tour of Flanders, so I just restarted training like 2 weeks ago, and yeah, recovery goes well. I was today with my physio, and yeah, everything looks good, and I can already do some little strength training also for the upper body. And on the bike, I'm actually already pain-free since day one, so that's not a problem.
And for you as a team, it's been a relatively successful start to the season. You've had plenty of wins with plenty of different riders. What's the feeling in the team at the moment? Is it you must be pleased with where you're at?
Yeah, I actually feel really good in the team. Yeah, I think it's a great group, also support group around all the riders. It gives also a really nice spirit in the riders group and in the team in general. Everybody is committed 100% for yeah, each one of us. So, and yeah, I think the results say the same. Yeah, we are a good team. We perform on the highest level of our sport, even if we are not licensed in the World Tour. But yeah, we still want to compete at the highest level, and yeah, that we won a couple races there shows that we are at the right place.
Yeah. I was going to ask you about that. I mean, you stepped down from World Tour. You left, obviously, AG2R last year. Have you seen a difference in the kind of setup? I mean, Alpecin-Fenix feels like a World Tour team just without the license. Is that how you found the transition from what was a fully licensed World Tour team to a second division or lower tier team?
Yeah, I never saw it like as a step back or step down. I always saw it as, yeah, even an upgrade. Yeah, because I just think they do stuff a little bit different. Yeah, a little bit maybe with less personal help. You know, the staff is not as big as maybe in another team. They try to be pretty economically in certain ways, not spend money just because other teams do it the same way. So they just try to find yeah, their own way. And yeah, I think that makes it also interesting for me, because now I also see, okay, maybe this and that was completely unnecessary in other teams. So actually now we don't have it, but it's not needed. So for example, I would say most World Tour teams, they take their big bus to the training camp in December or January. But why do you bring your big bus there? Because the riders, they can change in the hotel room and they can put on the shoes while, yeah, having a seat somewhere else. They don't need to go and do that in a team bus. So that's maybe already like a small change. Yeah, but I would say, yeah, like I said, it's not necessary to have and bring down a team bus to Spain or wherever you have the team camp.
Yeah, definitely. Was there a level of frustration with perhaps some of the way things were done on your last team? I read your really fascinating interview with the Swiss Sunday newspaper. I think it was a couple of weeks ago. I sense there's a little bit of frustration, perhaps, that that team which you left kind of was perhaps not right for you at that point. Do you feel a kind of a sense of rejuvenation and that you feel more refreshed now you're on a different team, and perhaps some of those kind of dyed in the wool traditional ways of doing things and not shackling you as much?
Yeah, I definitely needed kind of a restart. I saw that some things are not going in the right direction how I wanted them to have. So yeah, I had to make a change, and I'm really glad I did it and stepped down. Let's say, let's put it that way. Yeah, and now I would say I found a really good team who gives me the support I need, and I feel really comfortable here with Alpecin-Fenix. And yeah, I'm also really grateful that they gave me the opportunity for this year, because I won't lie, I guess I was pretty close to even stop cycling at a certain point last winter, because yeah, I had no team and not really an opportunity somewhere else. So yeah, they gave me this possibility, and I'm really grateful for that.
Yeah, I think when we spoke in December, I think it was, I think you'd already been, you were just about to announce the signing with Alpecin. But how close did you come to walking away from cycling? I mean, last year was tough with coronavirus and the lack of racing. Were you quite close to walking away? And I think you said you were going to move into kind of business interests if you were going to walk away.
Yeah, you know, I always hoped that I will find a team where I also can be happy. Um, I don't just want to be a professional cyclist to get some money on my bank account at the end of the month, but if my mind and head is not at the right place, yeah, it's not a fulfilling job, because you sacrifice too much to just suffer more mentally if you don't like to do it. So I needed like yeah, an environment where I can grow again, and I think with Alpecin-Fenix I definitely found it. So, but to come back to where I almost had to find another job, was like I did my last race in De Panne in Belgium, my really last race last year. So at that point, I didn't had yeah, an offer from another team. So yeah, you're at the start line. You think, okay, now you have the last chance to show something. And then that's when I broke my collarbone. So I was
Yeah.
laying on the ground, felt immediately that my collarbone was broken. And yeah, I was even crying on the ground. I said, fuck, that's it. Where
Yeah.
I have to go? Where can I go? So yeah, I went back home. Then I had some long talks with my manager Manuel Quinciato, and he really did a phenomenal job in trying to find a team for me, which also fits with me. And yeah, for like 2 3 weeks I wasn't really sleeping good, because yeah, there was not really an opportunity popping up. And until Alpecin-Fenix, they showed real interest and offered me a spot in their team.
Yeah, you spoke recently in that newspaper article I referenced a lot about kind of the mental side, and you mentioned there about fulfillment and things like that. Are you surprised that kind of not more cyclists have spoken about their mental health? Obviously, we know Tom Dumoulin has stepped away from cycling for a indefinite period, and the article referenced Marcel Kittel as well. Um, There's a lot of talk now about mental health in sport, but perhaps in cycling, it's not something we hear a lot about. Do you think there is a kind of a mental health problem within cycling in terms of actually riders perhaps who've been had a bit of time at home in the last year of kind of reassessed what life is about in terms of a life work balance? I mean, you guys were away for 200 plus days per year. Are you surprised that more cyclists haven't stepped away from the sport, with mental health being the kind of major factor in that?
I think cycling is a pretty hard sport, and you kind of have to be tough to practice it. So I think that's maybe why, yeah, most cyclists, they don't want to really talk about any mental weaknesses, let's call it that way. So yeah, then you just maybe make more fun out of like bad results, or yeah, some kind of troubles you have. You just try to make it more yeah, you make fun out of it, so you can handle it maybe easier. But actually, I would say it's some serious issues, or you have to treat it serious, I would say, because eventually it can come back to you a little bit later, or even after your career, because you maybe miss something in your life. And I think it's also a lot about defining real goals for you, what you want to achieve really in your career or in your life. And if you struggle to find that big goal, I think it's hard where you're gonna walk. It's yeah, you have to have like a destination where you want to go. Otherwise, you just float around like a boat without a pedal. Yeah, so I think a lot of guys, they don't really have a clear idea where they want to go, and then they just float around. And eventually, I think as a cyclist, you also, or professional cyclist, you can earn quite good money, way more money than you maybe earn if you have another job. So that's why also a lot of guys, they think, okay, I have to do some sacrifices, even if my mental health is not really at the right place. It's it's what I have to pay to get, yeah, this opportunity to earn more money and to be a professional athlete. But I think it's, yeah, everybody has more inside of him than just making sacrifices to get some money.
Yeah. Yeah. What about your ambitions? Have you kind of reset your ambitions? I mean, you were obviously second at Paris-Roubaix a couple of editions ago. A really fantastic ride. As I mentioned in the intro, former Swiss national road champion, Swiss individual time trial champion, world team time trialist. Have you reset your goals, and kind of what process do you go through when you're setting goals, perhaps when you're on a team which is at the spiky end of races, but you're perhaps in the service of somebody else, Mathieu van der Poel or Philipsen, etc., etc. What are your ambitions kind of going forward now, and have they changed since you moved to Alpecin-Fenix?
Yeah, I think with already the results I had in the past, I showed my potential. And I think there is anyway way more potential in each rider than they actually think they would be capable of. So my big goal is to change a little bit my attitude towards the races and how I gonna race. I want to be more confident, because if you look at the younger generation who's coming up now, how confident they race and how successful they race, it's not that they have something done much different than everybody else. I mean, the older pros, they should be still able to respond to these kind of the young generation who's doing maybe racing just out of intuition, or so, but they struggle a little bit because they don't know actually what to do or how to respond. But I think self-confidence or confidence plays a big role in how successful you are as an athlete. And I definitely work a lot on that part.
Yeah, and you mentioned young talent coming through. You obviously are teammates with one of the kind of young talents that we all talk about, Mathieu van der Poel. What's it like riding with him? He always comes across as somebody who, you know, has lots of that self-confidence, but in a kind of really controlled way, and he funnels that into his racing. What's it like being a teammate and being at training camps and training rides and in races with Mathieu? What's it? You know, can you learn something from him as an older pro as well?
Yeah, I definitely can learn from him a lot. He's, I would say, he's like a small kid. You know, he's not thinking too much about racing when he's not racing. He's thinking about playing Fortnite or whatever else, is riding his fancy car when he's not racing. But when he's racing, he's just like going full gas from the start. So yeah, he just lives the moment. I would say he's not like um, always thinking if he's doing the right thing to be at his best at the race and to be performant. Uh, yeah, this is how I see him doing things, and that's definitely something big to take with me to the future.
Yeah, and just finally, what does the rest of your season look like? You said you were planning a break after Flanders. What have you got coming up? I think I saw on Pro Cycling Stats your next race on there at least was the Tour de Suisse, which isn't for another kind of 5 or 6 weeks. What's the rest of your kind of summer and spring look like?
I have the Tour de Suisse coming up as next. Then normally nationals and eventually the Tour de France when all goes well. After the Tour de France is again a little rest. Um, I have my Dillier Classic Gran Fondo race the 31st of July. That's when I actually restart training after the Tour de France. And then honestly, I don't really know the exact plan after, but for sure, the latest goal in the season is gonna be the World Championship in Belgium, and then also Paris-Roubaix the 3rd of October.
Yeah, and it kind of get it with Paris-Roubaix being after the Worlds. I guess it's gonna, you know, the Worlds being in Belgium as well. It's almost kind of an aperitif waiting for, you know, you've got some cobbles, but then you've got Paris-Roubaix. Do you think riders will be kind of, you know, there'll perhaps be a dip around the Vuelta perhaps this year because, you know, Paris-Roubaix is going to be quite a lot of riders' big goal after that. Do you think the way the season is going to be shaped will be changed because of the move for Paris-Roubaix?
I'm not really sure. Anyway, I think for me, it doesn't really gonna change or how I see it in the team or the team's Alpecin-Fenix sees it mostly a little bit from a different point of view. I think in a more traditional cycling team, you would say you have to do the Vuelta to be in top shape for Worlds, and then not Tour of Flanders, it's Paris-Roubaix. But Yeah, I think with Alpecin-Fenix, we have a different approach of preparing goals, I would say. And I think they showed also that it works quite a lot or many times. And so I think the riders who are going to focus on Worlds and Paris-Roubaix are going to have um, a program with more one-day races or maybe smaller stage races that fits more in this kind of program or preparation idea they have.
That's good. And we wish you all the very best for the rest of this season. Touching wood that you stay injury free, having had a couple of spills already this season. But we wish you all the very best, and thank you so much for coming on and chatting to us.
Thank you too, Andrew.